Amara Jones had been married to Peter for 6 years when the contraction started. It was a chilly February morning in Lagos, and she had just made it through her 39th week of pregnancy. Peter drove her to the hospital, not speaking much, his eyes glued to his phone. Amara didn't mind. She was focused on the pain, on breathing, on staying strong for the little boy they had waited so long to meet. But what she didn't know was that Peter hadn't come to see a birth. He came to deliver betrayal. They reached the hospital room and nurses quickly got her settled. Between deep breaths and mounting pressure, Amara saw Peter walk over with an envelope. "What's this?" she asked weakly. He didn't meet her eyes. "Papers," he said, "divorce." At first she thought the pain had made her hallucinate. "What?" she whispered. "I can't do this anymore. I met someone." "You'll be better off," he said, and walked out. Just like that, Amara lay frozen, heartbroken, humiliated, and in labor. The nurses rushed in, unaware of what had just happened. She clenched her fists and screamed, not just from pain but from being torn apart in every way. She gave birth to a baby boy, James, alone. No father's hand to hold, no celebratory photos, just her brown eyes, and the soft cries of a newborn. When a nurse handed James to her, Amara broke. "It's just us now," she whispered into his tiny ear. "But I promise you'll never feel alone." The next few days were a blur of recovery and paperwork. Peter didn't come back. He didn't sign the birth certificate, and when Amara returned home, her world had changed, silently and completely. Life after the hospital wasn't easy. Bills piled up. Amara had been a part-time substitute teacher and now had to rely on government support. Nights were sleepless. James had colic and cried endlessly. Some days Amara felt like collapsing. But every time she looked at James's brown eyes, so much like hers, yet full of promise, she stood back up. She began working remote tutoring jobs at night when he slept. She'd read books on child development during the day, and sang lullabies when her voice felt hoarse from exhaustion. Still, she poured love into every moment. When James turned 3, Amara enrolled in nursing school. She had always loved science, and the flexible evening program at a local college allowed her to attend while her mother babysat. She asked every exam, every lab. Even when James caught the flu and she missed a midterm, her professors took notice. "You don't give up, do you?" one asked. "Not an option," she said. And she meant it. Failure wasn't a luxury she could afford, not when James counted on her for everything. By the time James was 6, Amara had graduated and secured a job at a hospital in downtown Lagos. She worked the night shift and homeschooled James during the day. He was sharp, curious, and full of questions. "Mom, why don't I have a dad?" he asked one afternoon. Amara paused. "Your dad made a choice. But so did I. I chose to love you with everything I had." James nodded, then hugged her tight. "Then you're enough." And in that moment she knew he would grow up stronger than his father had ever been. Excelled in school. He read at a 9th grade level. By 5th grade, he loved science just like Amara. And once said he wanted to become a doctor. So moms don't have to cry alone in hospitals. Amara's heart swelled with pride. He had no idea how much those words meant. She printed that quote and kept it taped inside her locker at work. It became her daily reminder of how far they had come and how much further they could go. One day when James was 12, Amara ran into Peter at a gas station. He looked older, worn, and surprised to see her. "You look good," he said. Amara just nodded. "This your car?" Eyeing her Honda. "Yes." "Paid off," she replied. "You doing okay?" he asked. "More than okay," she answered. James came out of the convenience store and saw him. "Who's that, Mom?" Amara glanced. At James. Just someone from the past. Peter didn't say a word. He watched his son walk away. Tall, confident, unfamiliar. High school came quickly and James began winning science fairs across the state. He got into dual enrollment classes at Georgia Tech. Amara rarely missed an event. She cheered louder than anyone at every award ceremony, every speech. "She's more than a mom," James once told his mentor. "She's my reason." Amara, hearing that, later through a teacher, cried in her car. Quiet tears of joy and validation. On the eve of James's high school graduation, a video he made for his senior capstone project went viral. In it he shared his story, raised by a single mom, abandoned at birth, and inspired to become a doctor. The video ended with him looking into the camera and saying, "Success isn't about who's in your corner at the start. It's about who never left." Within 48 hours, it had over 1 million views. The video caught fire. People from all over the country messaged James and Amara, praising their strength. News outlets reached out for interviews. One morning Amara woke up to a voicemail from Good Morning America. "We'd love to have you and your son on the show," the producer said. Amara sat in silence, hand over her mouth, barely breathing. She had spent years unnoticed, unseen, holding her world together with faith and tears. And now the world was watching. Their segment aired the following week, dressed in a soft blue dress. Amara sat beside James in the New York studio. The host, beaming, said, "Amara, your son credits you for everything he's become. What kept you going?" Amara looked into the camera and said, "Knowing I was his first and only line of defense, I couldn't afford to quit." The audience applauded. James reached for her hand, then looked into the camera and added, "She didn't just raise me. She rebuilt herself." The clip was shared across social media, sparking hashtags like #MamaAmara and #RaisedBy. Later that night, Amara received a message from Peter. It was simple. "I saw the interview. I'm sorry. I was a fool." She didn't respond. She stared at the message, not with anger, but peace. She had nothing left to say. Peter had missed everything. First steps, first words, first awards, and now the first global recognition. Regret was his weight to carry, not hers. James received full ride offers from several Ivy League schools but chose Morehouse, just like his mom hoped. "I want to be trained by Black excellence," he said. Amara nodded, smiling. "Just promise me you'll keep your feet on the ground. Only if you stay with your head held high," he joked. She laughed, the kind of laugh that comes from healing. In college, James flourished. He interned at hospitals in underserved areas, volunteered at free clinics, and even co-founded an initiative to support young single mothers pursuing education. He named it Amara's Light. When his mentor asked why, James said, "Because my mom never had help. I want to change that for someone else." Amara visited one of his clinics once and cried quietly behind her sunglasses as she saw teenage mothers being handed books and baby formula with her name printed across each bag. One day, James received an invitation to speak at a National Youth Leadership Summit. In Washington, D.C., Amara traveled with him. As he stood on stage before thousands of students, lawmakers, and CEOs, he shared his story again. But this time with more emotion, more fire. "My father walked out on me during birth," he said. Gasps echoed through the room. But the woman who stayed, she turned brokenness into brilliance. The audience rose in applause. Amara wiped her eyes as cameras flashed. The speech went viral. Again, this time it landed him a spot on the cover of Time magazine's Voices of the Future issue. The photo featured Isaiah in a white coat, stethoscope around his neck, and the caption, "What a mother's love can do." When Amara saw the issue at a grocery store, she bought 10 copies. Not out of vanity but victory. James's senior year arrived, and with it, medical school acceptance letters. Pan Atlantic University because it was close to home. Close to her. "I want to be near you when I take this next step," he told her. Amara teared up. "You could go anywhere. But nowhere without you," he said. Graduation day was held in the university's grand auditorium. James, now a grown man in a tailored suit, stood as valedictorian. The room was filled with family members, graduates, and professors. And then he began his speech. "I want to dedicate this moment to someone who never asked for applause but earned every standing ovation." She was left with a newborn and divorce papers on the same day. And instead of breaking, she built. Every camera turned to Amara. She sat in the front row, shaking, tears streaming. "That's my mother. The reason I'm here, the reason I made it, the reason I believe in miracles." The video of the speech was uploaded within hours. Again, it exploded. Mothers across Nigeria shared it, tagging Amara and calling her a national treasure. Celebrities tweeted about her. Non-profits offered her speaking engagements. Amara, once a woman who cried into a pillow alone, now stood before packed auditoriums reminding women that their pain wasn't the end. It was the beginning. One day James came home with news. "They want me to join a global medical initiative for women's health," he said. "And I want you to come too." As the keynote speaker, Amara chuckled. "Me speak internationally, Mom," he said softly. "You saved a life, mine. And now the world needs to your help." That night, she pulled out the old hospital bracelet from her labor, faded, bent, and placed it in a memory box beside the Time magazine and her son's speech. On stage in Geneva, Switzerland, with cameras, translators, and a full house, Amara stood tall. "I was broken, discarded, and dismissed," she said. "But I held on because sometimes all it takes Is one person believing in you, especially if that person is you? The crowd rose to their feet. Years passed. James became one of the most sought-after doctors in Africa, specializing in trauma surgery and community health. He opened clinics in underserved communities across the South. Amara ran Amara's Light full-time, helping thousands of single mothers find strength and support. One mother said, "You gave me hope when I had none." Amara replied, "Someone did that for me once too." Peter tried contacting James again, asking to meet. James declined. "Forgiveness isn't the same as relationship," he told his therapist. "I wish him well, but my life is already full." And he meant it. His mother had filled every void his father left. There was no resentment, only release. On the 25th anniversary of James's birth, Amara stood in her backyard, surrounded by friends, family, and the team from her foundation. Gave a toast. She started with nothing, but she gave me everything. My name is Dr. James, but before any of that, I was hers. The crowd clapped. Amara smiled, looked at the stars, and whispered, "We made it, baby." And for the first time in her life, every wound, every tear, every lonely night felt worth it.